The sun's golden and the sky's turned black, 'cause I loved her and she didn't love back. The sun's golden and the skies turned black, 'cause I love her and she didn't love back. The sun's golden and the skies turned the sun's golden and the skies turned black.
Boy, it was 25 years ago, but I remember it very clearly. I remember how white everything was. The wind was blowing hard. Deep powdered snow was everywhere. Visibility was really limited. We were at Timberline Lodge skiing that day. Myself, my brother, a friend. As I skied down the mountain toward Timberline Lodge, I noticed a woman standing off to the side of the run. She was obviously having problems with her skis, so I stopped to see if she needed a hand. That's when she told me that somebody had just run straight into a large boulder just off the side of the run. I looked a few feet beyond her, and there was a body lying there. I popped off my skis, and as I got closer, I saw blood everywhere. It wasn't until I got right up next to the person that I saw that it was my brother. He was unconscious, but he was breathing. I called his name, no reaction. I wasn't sure what to do. I took off my jacket, and I laid it over him, all the time talking to him, hoping he could hear me, thinking maybe he'd wake up. He didn't. By then, the others were stopping to see what was going on. I asked a few folks to ski down and alert the ski patrol as fast as they could. We needed to get him to a hospital right away. It took forever. Eventually, they did arrive. They carefully got him onto a snowcat, and they went down to the lodge with him. My flight landed in the parking lot of Timberline Lodge on board, and they took off. I remember calling our dad from the lodge to tell him that his youngest son had just been in a skiing accident. He was hurt pretty bad. He was being life flighted down into Portland. It was a hard call to make. I also called one of my sisters and talked to her to make sure she knew as well.
I remember where I was on that evening because I was at home and I was making dough Christmas ornaments because I was working in an elementary classroom and I was making personalized little ornaments for all of the kids in class. And the phone call came in from my brother that said he and my other brother who had been skiing, that one of them had been in a serious accident and that he was very badly hurt. And he went on to explain that Life Flight helicopter was going to be picking him up and taking him into a hospital in town. And I was at my home with my father and another brother. And we were all very worried, obviously. And we got into the car and we drove into town to the hospital where they said he was going to be taken. And as it turned out, we got there and found out that he actually wasn't taken to that hospital. He had been diverted and taken to another hospital that was actually closer to the mountain. And so we had to get back into the car and travel to the second hospital. But to mind for me when I was 11. A similar instance had happened with my mother, who had had a heart attack, and she died on that occasion. And this had too many similarities for me. We got to the second hospital, and we were taken into the little waiting room where the little doctor would come in and talk to us. And I could tell my dad was really, really upset, and as all of us were. But he told us that my brother was in critical condition, and we prayed over him. When I looked at him, what really struck me was that his face was just so swollen. His eyes were huge and purple. He was obviously unconscious and just really beat up looking. It was very sad and very scary because we didn't know at that point what was going to happen.
He was in a coma for almost a week. He was in intensive care for at least a week, or maybe a little more. He was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. When he did regain consciousness, his speech was affected. He had a hard time remembering certain things. His long-term memory was fine. His short-term memory was practically non-existent. His short-term memory wasn't very good for a long time, but eventually almost everything came back. I'm not sure if he ever remembered the accident itself.
During that time, it was really hard because I knew there was nothing that I could do to fix it or to make him better. And we were really just at a point of God's mercy where all we could do was pray and put it in God's hands. And I and friends of mine were praying, and there were some different scriptures that came to mind or helped me or comforted me through those times. And one of them was in Psalm 27, verses 13 and 14, that said, "I would have despaired unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord." And I also remember reading in the end of Revelation and just being comforted that one day in heaven that there would be no death and there would be no pain, and that we'd be in God's presence and everything would be wonderful. And that brought me some comfort as well. But it was hard waiting and not knowing if I was going to lose my brother or not.